Hi, I'm Mark, and welcome to my shop. In the last Dr. Theo episode, I got the lights wired up to the Lumi drive and programmed the lighting sequence. Now, it's time to get back inside of Dr. Theo's head and actually get those lights installed. Most of these lights will be mounted in here. But to do that, I need to separate the light strip into sections so I can arrange each one in the best orientation. Now I can cut the strip at these lines easily enough. The tricky part will be reattaching the sections with wires to make the circuit complete again. I purchased a length of 18 gauge 4-wire cable, typically used to hook up thermostats. The question for today is, what's the best way to attach those wires? Now I have a couple of ideas, so the first part of today's video will be some experimentation. Let's get to it. My first experiment will be my first actual attempt at doing surface soldering. I'll cut on the line to separate one LED. The program that's running just lights up all of the LEDs with the same color. So right to the edge of the strip, all 60 LEDs light up. I'll try taking the 4 wires that I've actually spliced out or cut out of the bundle, and I'll just try soldering, reconnecting that last LED with these 4 wires. Well, there's no going back now. Alright, moment of truth. I plug this back in. Do they all light up? Hey, look at that. They do. And this feels pretty solid. What I'm going to have to do is, as I'm putting the lights into Dr. Theo, I'm going to have to pre-cut all of the wires and pre-bend them so that they have the exact orientation and dimensions when the LEDs are actually sitting in the case, and then I can solder them in place. Here's a rough wiring diagram of how the lights are going to be strung around Dr. Theo's head. And what I realized was that my original plan was to start here with the mouth and then work clockwise around his head. But what that causes, or what that forces me to do, is that I need to, in order to start that layer, I need to actually pass this cable in through the back, and the first LED then would be his first part of his mouth, which means all of this cable is now visible because it's up here in the middle. So if I reverse it and start here in his jowl and work counterclockwise, then I can pass that cable in through the bottom, and it's mostly hidden. That, incidentally, that does require me to go back to the code and rework it so that the first light on the LED panel is actually here and not here. So basically, I'm just reversing all of the lights to the opposite sequence. So now the next challenge is, all right, how do we get the cable to this point? Dr. Theo is going to be made up of several layers. Imagine this is the front of his head. So this is the version, or the panel that has all the cutouts. Then there's a spacer, a 3D printed spacer that kind of looks like one of these. Then there's the layer of clear acrylic that's going to have the actual lights mounted to it. Another spacer, the panel that has the fake electronics, so that's this guy here. Then another spacer, and finally what originally was going to be a mirror. Now what I can do is, what I need to be able to do is I need to be able to pass the lights, I need to be able to start the lights in front of this second acrylic panel, which means I need to pass that cable through all of these layers, because the electronics and the battery pack are going to be in the back of his head. So for 4 of these layers, I should be able to cut just a very simple slot out of the bottom, again just close to his jowl, in all 4 of these layers. The last one though, the mirror, is going to be a problem, because I don't have a good way to cut that without shattering it. So I think what I'm going to do is give up on the mirror and consider replacing it with either just like a piece of cardboard, maybe just like a dull gray, or possibly even something that's shiny but I can still cut relatively easily. So I'll have to give that some more thought. But if I can get that slot cut in all 5 of these, then the cable can pass in through the 5 and the LEDs can start here on his jowl. So the 4 layers are all chopped, or I've got the notch cut out of all 4 layers. Here's the layer with the fake electronics, the 2 of the spacers, and then the other piece of acrylic has the notch there. Now, I started to assemble this to just make sure everything was going to fit, and I realized I had a problem. I missed a spacer. I need to take a gouge out of that one so I can feed the wires up through that one and into in between the first 2 layers of acrylic. But as they say in computer science, there's really only 2 hard problems: naming things, cache invalidation, and off by 1 errors. This is just one of the off by 1 errors. That didn't take too long. I've got a nice divot, a little ramp for the cable to fit through. So let's do a dry assembly and see how everything's going to fit together. So all the layers in except for the back, and that's okay because that'll be easy to cut out. It'll be done the same way. The cable runs all the way through exactly the way I had hoped it would. The cable itself, the rainbow cable, once I snug it up a little bit, that'll be basically hidden. There won't be any of it showing in the case itself. All you'll really see are the lights themselves, the light strip. Now I will still have, as I'm cutting this, cutting the line, the LED strip, and reattaching it, they will still be some of the cables that you'll see on the inside, but the main one anyway will be completely hidden. First LEDs are going to go on the inside left cheek, and right out of the gate, I can't make this turn, so because the cable has to come out at a 90 degree from the rest of the line of LEDs, so I'm going to end up having to snip off snip off the cables, snip off this first LED and reattach it, and then use these as my first 4. Now that I've got the first one in, it's time for a wiring montage. Well, all the lights are in. Let's see how it looks.
Well, you're Captain Buck Rogers, and according to your ship's log, you left Earth in 1987.
That much I know. Tell me what I don't know.
Well, if preliminary data holds up, it appears you have returned to Earth 504 years later.
Got a little bit of work to do on the timing, and one of the lights I think is it needs to be adjusted. Specifically, this light here I think actually should be turned off, and this one should be turned on, and that'll be a good balance with this one that's lit up over here. But overall, I think it turned out pretty well. So that's it for today. In the next video, I'm going to be putting the colored pieces of colored glass, or really colored plastic, over all of those light strips, at least all the front-facing ones, so that they kind of obscure and soften the edges a little bit. Now, as you might have noticed based on this closing video, The workshop is looking a little bare right now. And that's because we've got some major renovation going on in our basement, and so the workshop had to be completely packed up. All of the desks, or all of the workbenches that you're seeing here, have to get completely torn out, and there's going to be there's going to be a new setup anyway for the workshop eventually. This is going to be a multiple month project, so I don't know when I'm going to be able to get back to Dr. Theo. So join me next time, and I'll see you later.